The new application that we will start tonight, and which will take us a little bit of time to do all of its pieces, focuses on collections and generics, but the collections are implemented as generics, so that kind of doubles up. And by collections, we're going to mean maps. So a map is going to be a data construct or a data structure that gives you rapid access. And it's kind of, you can almost think of it as like a name-value pair, but the name can actually be any key out of the value object. So you can have an object as your data, and then a key based on out of that object, and you get rapid access to those items. And you can have a simple hash map, one type of map that we'll use that is not guaranteed to be in any order. And then you can have a tree map, which is guaranteed to be sorted by the key that you build. So that's sort of the introduction. And I do have a starter project and then a data file. So you'll need to download all three of the items under Assignment 8. The spec, and the zip that has the starter program in it. We've got a big form that's got lots of data elements in it, and I didn't think it was worth our time to sit here and drag text fields onto the form to build it. So that's what I have for you there. And then the data set. And we'll start taking a look. So you can go straight to the inside of the emp list. Is what this is, an employee list program that gives us update and add and delete features. So if you click into the emp list starter, you'll have a folder there that's a NetBeans project. So just right-click and copy it back out to wherever you like. I'm just copying it into my IS-287 folder. So that should be directly loadable in NetBeans, unless I screwed it up this afternoon. I was doing a little modification to it, and I was doing modification on parts that NetBeans doesn't allow you to directly edit. So I was editing in Notepad, basically, and I hope I didn't damage other parts of it. Okay, collections in XML. So if we look at the spec, we will see the form, and the employee data set, we'll take a look at that in a minute, will end up filling the form. So each line of our employee data set, which is just a comma-separated file right now, a CSV. Anyway, these are the fields that we will pull for each employee out of that data set. But we will be operating using different kinds of maps. So a hash map with employee number as the key, a tree map with employee number as the key, and then another tree map with the name as the key. And I don't know if I have a view with a record in it. Oh, I didn't do that. But anyway, in the second screen here, you can see that the menu drop down. So we're going to build a menu that allows us to load CSV files or load them as XML, and vice versa. Write them as CSV or write them as XML. And so we'll be able to load from CSV and write as an XML and vice versa. We'll also have update, add, and delete capabilities on our, and those will be our buttons on our form. And I think I changed these. I think we just have update, add, delete, and then instead of clear, we've got gonna have a little cancel option. But we'll fix that up in short order. Okay, so the basic operation of the form with the ability to read CSV is your part A, and we're going to, as it says there, we're going to build our maps, we're going to use a JFile chooser to let them select the employee data set and then play around with the maps. And that drop-down is a combo box, which is going to be the list of key values out of the maps that we build. Welcome back. No, it's all right. We just started. But you've missed the incredibly difficult attendance quiz question. So, out of luck there. All right, we're looking at the next assignment. And while we're here, let's leave the spec available. But go ahead and open the employee CSV. Now, Excel, if you just open a CSV file on a system that has Excel loaded, it's probably going to associate CSV with Excel. So that's okay. But just be aware that the actual data is text data in comma separated form. But here's what a record looks like. And I think we have 100 employee records in this data set that we'll end up processing. Employee number, the name in 4 pieces, 3 parts to the name plus a suffix, 2 address lines, and city, state, zip, the usual stuff, a phone number, the date they were hired, whether they were terminated, and then there's a pay code, gender is their status, and then a pay code which we don't have a table to match to, but anyway, that's the data. All right. Don't save it. Leave it as the CSV default there. And I think we're ready to launch NetBeans and open that starter project and see what we've got. The other thing that this assignment, which I said is fairly long and kind of tedious at times, but the other thing that it adds is reflection, which is a really cool process where the class basically figures out what methods it has, and it can do what's called invoking its own methods. And that process is interesting and not in our standard text. So we will have to add all of the information on that particular part. And my only problem is remembering what sequence I like to do things in when I present the pieces to you, and then which pieces I leave out and make you do. I know a few of them, but I'm going to have to consult my notes. So I don't know how far we'll get tonight, but we'll see. Let's do an open project and find the emp list that we pulled out of the zipped starter. All right. So emp list right now has just the form. So if we open the view, yes, thank you. I am always forgetting to set main. ClubDB from Java 3 is currently my main, so let me reset that so I don't start running bizarre things. Okay, there are your fields. I did not put any menu entries on the form yet, and we're missing the buttons, the function buttons, and oh, I also forgot to put the movement buttons. So in addition to being able to select by the drop-down box, we also are going to end up with, I hope they're on the form that I showed you. Yeah, little buttons that take us one record earlier in the data set or one record later in the data set, and they allow you to wrap around and keep, kind of scrolling through things. All right. Well, the first thing I would like to do, because it's foundational to everything else that we'll need to do, is build a data-backed bean for the employee record. In other words, we're going to build a class called employee, which will be able to store all of the field data for a single employee. So let's go to emplist and build our package, our business package. There'll be two business classes here, the employee class and then the I/O, the in and out to the files, CSV or XML, will be done with static methods from another class that we'll build. But Java package for business. And then right-click, new Java class, and our first class will be employee. All right. Now we should be able to make pretty quick work of this. Because we can declare our globals for each of the employee fields and then have the IDE encapsulate that for us. So what I've got, and most everything is a string, I have a couple of numerics that we'll have to deal with, but my private strings will include first name, I'm going to do first NM, middle NM for middle name, last NM, suffix, then we have ADDR1, ADDR2, two pieces of the address. I guess I'll continue on the next line in the interest of readability on the screen. So private string after the second address we have city, state, and zip. Just one data field for zip code. And, oh, nope, I'm sorry. Let's keep going. I also have gender. I won't comment on that. Status. We're going to do the hire date and the terminate date. I guess I'm going to go a little off as strings as well. So terminate DT. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's a lot of fields. Then we will have a private long for the employee number. Employee number does need to be long to cover the size. And then a private int for phone number, just called phone, and that pay code. Then our constructor, public employee empty constructor, will need to set all of the values to zeros or empty strings. So emp number, phone, and pay code are the zeros. Everything else is empty string. First name, middle name, last name, etc. I won't bore you with keep calling them out. You can see them from up above there. Okay, all the way down to terminate date. And Let's see if I got them all. I think so. I think I'm allowing for the hyphen second part of it on the zip. Yeah. Okay. We don't actually need an overloaded constructor here because we are going to build the employee objects by, reading the data set one record at a time and building an employee out of that. So I think we're ready to encapsulate fields. So up to the employee.java, refactor, encapsulate fields. I believe we want them all. Yep. So I'm going to do a select all. No Java docs. Just double check that everything, both set and get, has been chosen, and refactor. If only it were all that easy. Okay. Now, unfortunately, in my notes here, the form, the view class is going to end up being kind of long, and I'm going to have to keep searching for my various pieces here. So bear with me while I find the elements I need. Interesting. Okay. All right. We all good on down a little bit? Okay. Now I would normally spend some time letting you do some of this coding, such as the load that uses the JFile chooser, but we're a little short on time in the course. Because I'm guessing that it'll take us 3 weeks probably to wrap up all the pieces of this. So tonight, 2 weeks after, and that leaves us, there's a 9th assignment that's on threading. And I don't know if I can, I don't think I generally do it in one session. I'll try, or maybe we'll get through it faster than I'm thinking we will. But anyway, our last official class will be the 4th, but you need to keep the 11th open. That would be the final exam date, but if there's no final exam, as we were talking about before class in this course, but I might need to use that as kind of a wrap-up session, depending on how far we get with these last 2 assignments. Okay, let's go to the view, and we will add our first menu item, which will be load from CSV. So select the file menu, right-click, add from palette, menu item, not a menu, but just a menu item, and our, oops, I've lost my properties window. I think I did that to myself when I started here. Where is it? There it is, IDE Tools, Properties. Okay, it's back. So after you select the just added menu item, the text will be load from CSV. And I'll click and drag it up above exit. And then we will begin our first event. So right-click, Events, Action. Action performed is fine. The default event for the menu, of course, is to click. So action performed. Oh, darn, I didn't change the name. Let's go back to the design. Let's change the name of this object. So load from CSV, change variable name, JMNU load CSV. Now, do we have the event renamed? Yes. Okay, so load JMNU load CSV action performed. We're going to have to do a few clearing operations. I'm going to come back to those. I'm just going to start with status message label, setting the text to clear on that. But one of the things that we want to have happen is that when they do a load, we're going to entirely clear the form, including the radio buttons. And you know, it occurs to me, oh, I do have them in a button group. So there is a button group 1, so they are already connected. And I want to completely clear out the selections there if they're doing a load, because then it's actually a two-step process. They have to go through the load, and then they choose which kind of map they want to use to navigate the form and to build the combo box. And that's just an artificial, way I just decided to do the project. So back in the source code, because we have a button group 1, we can do the following to clear all of the radio buttons. We can ask for button group 1. I didn't change the name on this one. And there is a clear selection. Clears the selection such that none of the buttons in the button group are selected. So that is another, and there's one more that we'll end up doing. But for now, let's just remind ourselves of how we're going to go about letting the user choose their file. So we will create a JFile chooser for that, F, as a new JFile chooser, which will require some imports. And we're going to set the dialog on the chooser, so f.setDialog title, and it'll say select employee file. And then we will filter for CSV. And so the way we do this with the file chooser is to create a file name extension filter, which I'll call filter, as a new file name extension filter. And then we send it as parameters. The first parameter is the description we want the user to see on the form. So we'll say CSV SV file, which is star.csv. So that's the actual description that they'll see, and then you put a comma, and in quotes CSV, which is the actual, oops, I've fouled my quotes, I missed my double quote there. Okay, there we go. So CSV, and I don't know if you remember, I guess we haven't done it yet in this course. We did it in Java 1, that on a file extension filter in a JFile chooser, you don't use the dot. Some environments like a Visual Studio might have you have a dot CSV or dot TXT or whatever you're filtering. Here it's just the extension, the file extension. Okay, we do need an import for file name extension filter. So we'll import that from the file chooser package. And that gives us clear sailing there. And then we set the file chooser filter. So we do an f.setFileFilter to the filter we just built. And remember that whenever you set the filter, it is additive. So if you needed more filters, more separate filters that would be selectable within the dialog window, you keep creating new filters and doing set file filter afterwards. I also just noticed in my notes I forgot on my constructor for file chooser to put dot inside double quotes to give us our starting folder. The dot, of course, comes from the Linux, Unix world, where dot means current directory. All right. Then we've got the strange behavior of creating a dialog, but then we tell the filter that its parent is the dialog. Different way of managing it. So we'll have a JDialog, DG, as a new JDialog. No parameter on the constructors. Oh, it did not give me, it must have done the import already. You may have an import need, have that in red. And then we're going to need a return value. So I'm going to have an int rval, let's try rval, as f.showOpenDialog. You can do this as an open or a save dialog, so we're obviously doing the open dialog now. And then the parameter to the open dialog is the DG. So it's a little backwards in a sense, because in fact you're actually telling it the parent container. So f.showOpenDialog with DG as the parameter will pause the system and launch the open dialog. When the user terminates the dialog in whatever fashion, we'll have a return value to indicate whether there was a cancel as the primary reason we want to investigate that. So if return value from the dialog is equal to the JFileChooser cancel option, so if it's equal to the constant which matches the cancel, then we do not try to load anything. And instead, we'll put a little message out. So status message label, set text to open canceled. Otherwise, we need to process that choice, and we're going to do that. As I said, we're going to call a class empIO. So I'm going to have an empIO class that we're going to add in just a second, and we're going to do a getEmps call, sending it the fGetSelectedFile dot get absolute path. So that will have the full path name of the file that they pointed to. Remember that the JFileChooser doesn't actually do any file opening. It simply has information about the file that they asked to have opened. Okay, and let's do, oh, well, before we do that, so I guess we're at a spot now where we need to start building our emp IO, and I'm going to have the emp IO class return a basic hash map. So let's go over, we'll do a little back and forth here as we start to build this. So I'm going to go to my business folder and ask for a new Java class, and the class is emp IO. And we are going to implement this, as I think I've already said, with static methods. So we're going to have a public static method that is called getEmps, and it's going to receive a string path. And so our only remaining question is, what kind of return object? And so we are going to have a map, so that's capital M map. And so when you look at the different kinds of maps, there are a couple of more, I think, besides just the raw hash map and the tree map. I'd have to look them up. I don't use them. But anyway, so a map is the superclass, and you actually instantiate with the subclass hash map, tree map that you want. So we're going to send back a map class, and you use this diamond operators, which are the generic operators, saying that the map will have a key, a set of keys that are long values, but you use the class long, not the lowercase intrinsic. So map will have a long class key and an employee class data value. So we're returning that kind of map, but we will have to do an import. So we're going to do Java util map is where you find the overall map class. And oh, it didn't need an import for employee object because it's in the same package, right? Okay. Well, this will allow us to jump back for just a second to our list view, because now we know what kind of object we can fill from the call to the static method. But I'm going to make the object a global because we'll need it throughout the form in several different, well, all the different operations. So back up to the top of the form, in the globals area, I'm going to declare an object of type map with long and employee. So, and I'm just going to call it emps. So that is my raw hash map, or simple hash map of employees. But the form will need the import for map, and it will need the import for the business.employee. So you'll need to do the import twice to cover both of the items underlined in red. All right. So my emps map, hash map, will become the recipient of the getEmps call. So emps equals empio.getEmps. And emp.io is also in the business package. So if you'd like, I guess we can just go up to the top where we have business.employee. We can just make that business.star to cover both of the imports, and anything else we might decide to add to it. Okay, so the form call is now happy. And we will go back to emp.io and see if we can make it actually do something. Okay. We need a return object. So inside the static class, we will have to declare a map of key type long and data type employee. I'm going to call it emp.list, and it's going to be a new, now here's our superclass, subclass, polymorphic call. It's a new hash map, and you don't need to put anything in the diamond again if, and I forgot to check this, if we have the proper JDK. So let's do the import for Java util hash map. And yeah, it didn't. I forgot to update the JDK. So let's do an emp.list. Right-click properties from JDK 5 to JDK 8, and click OK. There we go. All right. So we'd already done the util import for the map superclass. Now we've done the import for hash map subclass because that's the instantiation call. Don't forget your parentheses at the end of hash map because you are calling the constructor. Well, reading the data. And we will not use reflection at this point. We'll come back to that in due time. So we're going to do it in raw or manual mode in a sense. So in a try-catch, we're going to create a buffered reader in, which is a new buffered reader that wraps a new file reader based on the path value that is sent to us, and we need imports. So Java.io buffered reader. In fact, let's just make it Java.io.star. We're going to be doing reading and writing, so we'll just grab all the I/O goodies. And it's not happy now because we don't have the possible exception handler. And we'll go ahead and put it in, but because this is a static class, we're not really doing anything. If we catch an error on the file, so all I'm going to do is catch exception E, all manner of exceptions, and just indicate no action or return code. Because we will eventually return emp.list, and so it will be up to the form, if it wishes, to check whether the map has any size to it. Okay, well, ready for a bit of a slog here. I'm going to do my usual priming read style, so I'm going to do an in.readline. Oh, but that actually is the line of headings. So ignore headings. If we go back to our employee CSV file and we open it with something like Notepad, you don't have to do this. I have TextPad loaded on my machine, which is a Notepad variant that has some Java awareness. But anyway, if I open it in TextPad, you can see the raw data, but that first line, comma separated elements, are the field names. So, or column names if you prefer. So I'm going to need to ignore those, so ignore headings, and that means that my string emp is going to come from the next read. So I'm going to do a read line, so that's my real priming read, and I will do a while emp is not equal to null, then we process. And if you remember some of our work in the past, like the Java 1 letter code, what we're going to have to do is split into our pieces and then just go through every piece and put it in its proper spot. So I'll do it the long way, and then we can think about improving efficiency at some point in the future. So I'm going to create a string array emp data, and that will be equal to the emp split using comma as the delimiter, as the separator character. I'll need an employee, so employee object E will be a new employee. First step, employee number, which is a long. So I'm actually let's do it as follows. Let's do an an E dot set employee number. Let's see if this throws an error at us. We'll do long, parse long of the E emp data at position 0. That's the location we expect for employee number. It did not complain. Oh, right. I'm sorry. I know why I wanted to do this. I'm going to do this in 2 steps because I need the employee number again when I build the map entry. So let's do this. Let's create a long, capital L. You can create it as the class object, emp no, and that will be equal to long parse long of emp data 0. Then I can do E dot set emp. Come on, E dot set emp no to emp no. Okay. So that gives me an employee number as a long, capital L long, which I can use later on. And now the rest is just all the other fields, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do them all in one line each, just to simplify it. So if emp data at position 1 is not empty, that'll be the first name piece. Then we will do an emp dot set sorry, E dot, I've got myself backwards on versus my notes. E dot set first name to emp data at position 1. And I will close. So there's the whole call. And now I think I can copy and paste if I'm careful. I don't know if it's going to be worth it or not, but I'll see. So that line I'm going to copy, and we're going to look at the second position, and if it's not empty, we will take that second position value and put it in the last name. Oh, it's middle name, you're right. Yeah, hold on. I need to have that available, don't I? No, it is last name. Yeah, I hope I may have that wrong somewhere in the spec, but if we look at the actual employees.csv, I do first name, last name, middle, suffix. So I need to keep this. We'll keep this handy. So that is last name. Copy again. 3 is now middle. 4 is suffix. Five is the first address line, so set ADDR 1. 6, the second address line. 7 is city. 'Then state. At slot 8. 9 is our zip. Okay, so 10 is the phone number. So this is another, I think I'll bring this down on 2 lines so we can see it. So this will be the set phone, but we need to do an integer parse int of emp data at position 10. And I must be missing a parentheses. Yes, okay. All right. Then we're back to strings again. So 11 is the gender. So we'll set gender from position 11. 12 is status. Thirteen is hire date. which we are doing as a string, hired date, or DT, 13. Terminate date is 14. And I think we're down to the end because we have 16 data fields. And we'll have pay code. So 15 will be once more, I'll do it on a second line here, will be a set pay code using an integer parse int of emp data 15. Whew. As I said, some things are a little tedious in this one. Okay, so we now have an employee object, E, built from the string, and we want to take the employee and add it to our map object. So our emp list will have a put. So there's a put is the way you pop data onto your map. We are still in the while loop. Yeah, it may not be quite clear from that, but I am still in the while loop. So every time through the while loop, we are doing an emp list put, and the first item is the key, which is the emp no we calculated above and kept, and then E is the data element. So that will build our map, and then we can say that our next string emp will be in.readLine. So this is our read at the bottom of the while, so this is the end of the while loop there. And although we can't show it all on one screen, almost, but not quite, we loop around until emp comes back as null. The only thing we should have to do after the while loop is over is to make sure we close our input file object. So in.close outside the while, and there you go. Poof, we've created a map, a hash map. And we've returned it to the form. Let's see, what else do we need to do on a load operation? Where is my load method? Okay. Ooh, I just realized that my pages are not numbered. I'm going to have to do that at the break, or I am going to be in deep trouble. Okay. Because my methods all go from one page crossing over to the next. All right, are we okay with the getEmps method as our static method in emp.io? Everybody have the build finished? So back to the view. So the only thing I'm going to add to the code that I already have in my load operation is a status message label. Set text that will tell me, so I can finally do a little test. It will tell me size of emps, and guess what? The map can tell you its size with emps.size. Okay. So to review, the load action for CSV gives them a file chooser. If they select a file, it doesn't do any, data validation on it being a file, but we'll just worry about the emp.io returning nothing if that's the case. But we send it over to the getEmps method, hoping to return or see a sized more than 0 map come back as a simple hash map emps. And I think we're ready to test this part of it. So if I run, I have errors. Well, that's no good. Where are my errors? Let's see. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I'm worried about this being a result of my mucking with the file. Let's clean and build. Ooh. Yeah. Ouch. Emp list view at line 167. Oh, this is most unfortunate. I thought I fixed all of this stuff. Wow. In fact, I'm sure I did. So my concern is that, oh boy. Okay. We're going to have to do some editing here because, as far as I know, NetBeans will not let us remove the code that's. These are items that I should have removed, and I would have sworn that I had removed when I was playing around with the raw source file. So how many of them are there? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I bet oh, can you? So on the property, so the suggestion was go to the radio button and look at events in the properties. Aha. And then delete the event that is showing. Anytime it's showing an event, find it in the list. good job. I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to have us edit and find all this stuff. Outstanding. Okay. So that is gone. Let's go to tree map and do the same. So there should be 2 of them for each. Deleting. Oh, map with name only has 1. Oh yeah. So I failed manual editing this afternoon. Either that or I'm really suspicious that I didn't end up with the right file in the starter project. Combo box also. Yep. Combo box has 1. There it is. Okay. Now we'll try, so 2 for the hash map, 2 for the tree map, 1 for the name sort tree map, and 1 for the combo box. Run, clean and build, cross your fingers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So you can get to that area, you just have to get to it through the IDE tools, whereas I would just like to get in there and delete it by hand. But okay, that's... yeah, so right now there are no events for combo box either. So anything you see in that combo box set, delete as well. Now we're clean. Now we can run. And we will load from CSV. There's our open dialog with our little filter. I think I left my employee list 1 level up. So there's my employees CSV. We click open and cross our fingers that, yay, we have 100 employees. That's what we expect. All right. Well, that's a good first hour of work, with many more to come, but let's take a break. So the way the spec is written, you have to load and then select your map type before the combo box is filled. So I'm going to begin with the raw hash map, which makes sense because that's what we get back from the EmpIO class, and anything else will have to be transformed. So let's create an event for the raw hash map radio button. So select it. Events. I'm going to go with item state changed just to be a little different on the event. And of course the item state changed for the radio button will fire whether it's being selected or deselected as a result of another button being selected. So we need to double check before we do anything that if JRadio hash map, that's the name of that button, is selected, then we'll do our thing. And what we will do is call a method, because I think we can get some efficiency here. We're going to call a method that I called cmb_keys_build, which wasn't very original, but that's the combo box keys. So the combo box I think is called cmb keys. Let me double check that. Yeah, so cmb keys, and this is going to be the build. So down below, above the public declarations, the globals, but after the item state changed event that we just built, we will have a private method, and that's assuming I can find it in my notes. Private void CMB keys underscore build does not take any parameters. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to just move this over to the same level as the event methods. The first thing I'm going to do is set up my little loading control Boolean the way we did in the previous assignment, because same thing will happen as we do things to the combo box. It'll be firing the selected changed event for combo box. So let's set loading equal to true, but that means I need to give myself a global called loading. So back at the top, I don't need all that init components, but anyway, back at the top, we will have Boolean loading. We can initialize it to false. And then we'll be okay. Back down at the bottom. And then the next thing we want to do, because we're rebuilding the combo box, is clear the items that are currently in the combo box. And it was pointed out to me this evening by one of the students in the class that this is something I failed to do in the previous assignment. So if you keep loading your sales DB, you'll keep expanding your combo box. But we will do a CMB keys, that's the combo box. Remove all items is one of the methods that you can apply to a combo box. Okay. Well, we're eventually going to have this method do any of the maps, but for right now we're going to focus on just the hash map. So if JRAD hash map is the one that was selected that got us here, we want to fill the combo box with the keys that come from the map. And this is fairly easy, but I'm going to do it using a nice little, I don't know if it's a trick or not, but it's a feature. I'm actually going to create an array list of longs, which I'm going to call keys. Remember, the basic hash map is keyed by the employee number, so that's a long. So an array list of long called keys is going to be a new array list, but you can actually, when you build an array list, send it as a parameter to the constructor all the keys or all the items you want in your array list. And we can get that from the map as follows. emps.keyset returns a set view of the keys contained in the map. And so the array list can take a set and produce an array list of longs from that set, from that key set. We do need the import for the Java util array list. So that's not an entirely obvious feature of the array list. But then, once we have our array list, I'm simply going to go through, so we'll use the newer style of for loop. So we'll say for each long k key in the keys array. So that's our for each. So it's for each element in the keys array list. We will do CMB keys dot add item. And the item that we will add is the K. Now, what is it complaining about there? Oh, can use functional operations. Well, okay, I'm not going to. I like the for loop that I built. I'm going to go ahead and set the selected index to nothing selected. So CMB keys, set selected index to -1. It allows me to do the big reveal at the appropriate time. And then, of course, as we leave the void, we will set loading equal to false. We are done loading. I guess actually we should probably clear the status message label as well. Well, let's see. Do I do that here? Do we need to do that here? No, maybe not. I'll leave it off. We'll come back and add it if we need to. Okay. Well, let's see if we can fill a combo box with the first type of map. Load employees. Size of emps 100. Choose raw hash map. And by Jove, I think we've got something. Now, I hadn't disabled the combo box. I'm just a few of the little niceties I'm going to be kind of lax on in this assignment since there's so much else we're going to do. But okay. Now, does this equate to anything at all? Because what the documentation says is that a simple hash map does not guarantee any order to the keys. So if we look at the keys, the data elements, I suspect they're in the order that they were loaded, but you cannot, so I'm told, be sure of that. Into the map. Yeah. That's well, the combo, right, the combo box is just taken from the list, the order of the keys. And so what you can't be sure of is what the order of the keys is. And supposedly it could even change over the course of a session. That is the key order. The only thing that the basic simple hash map guarantees you is that when you put a key in, you'll be able to get the right data element back, the matching data element back. Okay, well, we've got something in the combo box. So it's time to make the application do something with that thing which is in the combo box. I'm going to defer the tree maps till next week, and I'm going to keep trying to pursue getting some actual visual data going on here. Okay. So, there are a couple of things we need to do. Oh, and before I forget, I think there was something else I wanted to do in the load. Yeah, okay. It's still coming. Okay. So what we want is an action on the selection, the combo box state changed, and actually, I think I'm gonna get us ready for something else here. Just because there's not an easy or a nice way to do this. So one of the things that we're going to have to do from time to time is clear the form. Or just make sure that it have that ability. And to do that, I am going to try to improve the efficiency slightly above just going through every text field and setting it equal to the empty string. I just want a slightly different approach. And I think I might have a use for this technique also later on. But anyway, here's what I'm going to do to give us a clear form operation. I want an array, and I can make it just a straight array because of it's a fixed number of elements. So I'm going to create an array of J text fields, which I'm just going to declare as fields. So I want this as a global. I want a global array of text fields, basically pointers to each of those fields, those elements. And when we're all done, I'm not sure you're going to say that this was more efficient, but it does just show you a little technique. Okay, so we'll import Java Swing JText field, but here's my problem. The text fields that I want this array to point to, this global, do not exist until after the init components has run. But then I'm in the constructor, and I need to be able to declare the text fields and then link them to this global. And so you actually have to do this in 2 steps. It's kind of tedious, but here we go. I'm actually going to create a JText field array FLD, and I'm going to explicitly declare it using all of the text field names. So this will be JTXT emp number and JTXT, why did I do it in this order? That's curious. Not sure that it needs, well anyway, let's keep going. Last name, JTXT, is that how I have it? Last, first, middle suffix, okay. Last name, JTXT first name, and then I'm just going to keep going. So JTXT mid name, JTXT suffix, JTXT address 1, address 2, JTXT city, state. I've lost where my phone number comes in. Hold on. Phone number comes in right after the zip. Okay, so city, state, JTXT zip, JTXT phone, JTXT gender, JTXT status, hire date, term, DT, and JTXT pay code. Okay. I've done. This always happens to me when I explicitly declare the array. It gives me the closing curly brace, and then I always put another one in. So I've got an extra closing curly brace. Okay, so there is an array that points me to each of the text fields. But to make it a global for the rest of the form, I then have to set my actual global fields equal to field. And I know it's weird, but I played around with other approaches, and this seems to be the requirement. Okay, so after the init components run, and I build my pointers to the text fields, and I put it into my global, then I can create a clear form little function, which is going to be very simple. So down, and I'll do that down where I'm building my other methods. So, whoops, way down here. Oh, it opened that up again. I don't want that open. Hold on. I don't need all of that stuff. Okay. So where I have private combo box keys build, I'm also going to have private void clear form. So I'm going to put that, oh, it's so short, I think I'll actually put it above the combo key. So private void clear form, and all I'm going to will need to do here is say that for J text field F out of the fields array, in other words, go through each entry of the fields global array, and you should find there a JTextField type object, which we now linked to F, and we should then be able to say F dot set text to the empty string. So, for what it's worth. Okay. Well, let's see. I think I'd done that in part because when I looked at my load, I actually did a call to that. So let's go back to the load method. After I cleared my selections, but before I did the JFileChooser, I called the clear form just to make sure that no artifacts were left over on the form. Oh, you could do the status message label. I'm going to leave it separate just because that's the way my notes are. But yeah, you could certainly add it as one of the items in the fields list. Most definitely. Okay. And then I guess we've got time. Well, actually, let's see. Wait a minute. But while we're here, let's play around with the other employee number map, but the one that's the tree map, because that won't be too hard to deal with. So let me see. In this case, we're going to need a new event for the tree map item state changed. So choose that one and right-click, Events, Action, Action Performed. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Okay. I was looking at my code and getting distracted. Okay, let's use our newfound skill. Tree map. Action performed, event deleted. Okay. There we go. Now we'll go events item state changed. Okay. And I'm going to make use of the CMB keys build because now this is kind of a cheat in a sense that we don't need a tree map to exist. The hash map, which has the employee keys, is enough to get the data we want. We only need the tree map in order to have a convenient way of sorting the employee numbers before we put them into the combo box. So what I have in my code is if the JRAD tree map is selected, then I'm going to build my keys. Well, I'm going to clear the form, and I guess I should do that up above here too, because I in the CMB keys I'm setting selected combo box element to not selected, so I want to follow that logic with a clear form. In other words, don't have an artifact in the display area when you've cleared the combo box element. So I'll run the clear form, and then I'll do a CMB keys build call again, and we'll have a separate build to process that one. Okay. So here, if I can find it in my notes, is the nice little technique for the tree map. Back down to the CMB keys build, and I'm just going to continue. I had the hash map selected, then we're going to say else if JRAD tree map is selected. We have a different process. And this again is going to be kind of so simple. You're going to go, oh, okay. We need, at least for the moment, a tree map of long and employee, which I'm just going to call tree map lowercase. But we can build it directly with a call to new tree map diamond operators and send it, guess what? Our hash map. Now I didn't actually look into how efficient this is, although I think it's fairly reasonable. Okay, so look, we're going to need an import now for Java util tree map, our new style of map. And so the difference between a hash map and a tree map is that you're guaranteed that the keys are in sorted order in the tree map. So we take the emps, we run it through the constructor of the tree map, and oh, okay, I do a slightly different approach. And I think this is just to show, again, to show an alternative technique. So how are we going to get through all of the keys that are now in the tree map? And the answer is we are going to have a for loop, and we are going to have the for loop contain a map entry. So there's an entry method, and remember it's a long and employee. So there's our map, but we're looking for a specific entry, which we'll call entry, out of the tree map entry set. Okay, so we're going to go through each entry in our tree map. So the entry object is actually the whole thing. It's both it's a key and it's a data element. And what we can then do is have our long key be equal to the entry dot get key. So again, just another way of managing, trying to show you all different techniques for managing and processing maps. So once we have the key out of the entry, having stepped through each entry, we can then do CMB keys, add item for K. And then CMB keys, set selected index to -1. And it's possible we could have brought that out as without having to repeat it, but it's not too big a deal. Okay, so we're going to build a tree map out of our hash map, then step through every entry of the new tree map in order to pull the key from the entry and add it into our combo box. So I think we can test again and see if the keys end up in sorted order when we ask for a change. So we'll run it, we'll load, first the raw, there are the keys in no particular order. We can even put one in, see what happens. Then if we switch to tree map and we drop it down, we need to see if in fact they are all in order. They certainly look like it so far. Yep. You have to be careful and check all 100, but a quick spot check seems to indicate that they are in fact in sequence by their employee numbers now. All right. Well, let me take a quick look here and see if it makes sense to start the next operation. Let me pause and check through my notes. All right, so I know everyone wants to get to actually displaying a data record in the form, but that requires reflection, at least the way we're going to do it, which is a whole other long-winded topic. So rather than start that this evening at this late hour, I am going to go ahead and we'll do the name key, just to show you how we're going to build a separate tree map with names as the entries in the employees table, or in the employees combo box. And that will require us, before we build the event, it will require a new global. It keeps wanting to expand that init components method. That will require a new global map object. So I'm going to go back to the top where I've got my previous form globals, and we will declare a new map that in this case takes a string and an employee. So the string will be the name key, and we'll call it emps by name. So I'm declaring that global, and we'll go through the code to build that separate map and then the combo box, because the separate map is actually going to continue to exist, and we're going to end up with a problem of having to synchronize them as changes are made. which is a nice little exercise as well. So this is going to be a global, but let's jump back to the design, and once more on our map, now with name key, sorted name key, we will right-click and go to Event, Item State Changed. And our question is, if the RAD name key is what I called it, so if the name key radio button is selected, then I am going to actually build my map, and then I'm going to call the combo box builder to just fill the entries. So the building of the map will look like this. EMPS by name will be a new tree map. Oops. So we're going to do an instantiation call. We declared it as a map, the superclass type, but we're instantiating it with the subclass tree map. So it's a polymorphic approach. And then the operation will be similar to what we did a moment ago. We are going to go a for loop through map entries, and we're going through the EMPS map, so that regular hash map. So we've got a long and an employee. So for each entry in the EMPS entry set, we will need to pull now we're going to do the reverse of what we did a moment ago, where we pulled the key out of the entry. Now we're going to pull the data element. So we're going to have an employee item emp, or we can just make it E. Employee E will be an entry, the entry dot get value. So the value is the second, is what the data element is called. So the value is the employee, the key is the long. So now as we step through the hash map entries, we get an employee, and we have to build our new key. So we're going to do a string nm as e.getLastName, and then I'm going to add to that a comma space, a literal. I'm going to just do it that way, plus e dot, I lost my cursor, come back, e.getFirstName, and we'll add to that a space or two, and then e.getMiddleName. So it's going to be last comma first space middle is my new key, and all we have to do, we've got the data element, we've built the key, we simply add, and remember we've instantiated our global with a call to the tree map constructor, so it's empty before we start the for loop. So all we have to do is say emps by name, put name string and employee object E, and we're building our new tree map. After the for loop is completed, we will do a call to fill the combo box. So CMB keys build. Yeah, good. I guess I'm clearing the form first, aren't I? Yeah. Clear form, CMB keys build. And the other thing I had in my notes, and I was noticing it, we probably ought to clear the status message label, which is a good reason to have it on the clear form process, but for now I'll leave it the way it is. Okay. Or we can just do, actually let's just do that in the clear form. Last thing we'll do and when we clear form the status message label set text. I'm doing it the long way without putting it in our fields. Okay, but then we have our CMB keys build operation. Come on, notes, don't fail me now. Should be fairly easy because we have our tree map created. So we'll do an else if JRAD name key is selected, and the operation will be pretty much like the for loop that's just above us. So for map entry, but this time string an employee in emps by name, emps by name dot entry set. We will pull the key back out, string name equals entry dot get key, and combo box CMB keys add item, and the combo box is happy to take the string just as it was happy to take the longs. And last operation, CMB keys, set selected index to -1. And we probably ought to put an else, since it is possible to have no items selected. I'll have a final else that just says status message label set text no map selected. Tried to build the combo box with, somehow we got there. And I think that'll do it. So on a name key, the state changed method will build emps by name from the emps. So emps is sort of in control, and we need to be careful now that if emps by name is the selected map when changes are being made, we got to make sure those changes get back in emps, because if we go back to an emps, we could potentially lose updates. All right, but let's see if we've got our third map operational. Load. So first one, raw, still coming in the same way. Sorted by employee number and ta-da! Sorted by last name, first name. Those look right to me. So our combo box is ready to go any which way we want. And next week we will start on the reflection technique for filling all of these boxes from the employee class by having it call its own methods. Thanks very much. Oops.